Hey everyone, welcome back to the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Today I have the honor to learn from Austin Wells. Austin is the owner of the Portside Rogues Lightsaber Academy in Michigan. He lives the Jedi Lifestyle and teaches others to do so as well. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot about that today. So, Austin, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate you taking the time. But here's a question that I'm going to open up with. How the heck did you get into this? This is something not too many people walk into. What got you into this?
So what actually got me into it was I originally was a fencer before I became a lightsaber guy. I was in there for about 2 or 3 years before a couple other students were saying, hey, they're actually trying to make lightsaber fighting a sport. So a lot of them started moving that way, and I followed a mover. And it's very complex of a dueling system. It's not just your simple forward and backward. It's a lot closer to your sword fighting that you see in like the Renaissance festivals. So I started doing that, and I was in it for 17 years. And yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah, 17 years ago.
That's a long time.
About 3 years ago was when I actually started delving into the philosophies and the lifestyle itself when I became the teacher. So it's an odd series of just how it all started. And it was funny because I actually wasn't like a fan of Star Wars at the time. I actually was a duelist for 2 years before I watched my first Star Wars movie. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So you start out as, did you like fence competitively, like against other people competitively?
Yeah. I was a foil fencer, which isn't as awesome as it sounds, but
what is that?
It's pretty much just that's the basic level. It's the smallest one.
So, like, in you getting all the gear and stuff, what was the switch like then from going from fencing? Because that could actually, like, you have all this gear on to make sure you don't get, like, stabbed or anything, right? To actual, like, using lightsabers.
Yeah, lightsabers also have a lot of armor as well. But their stuff is more hardened because, unlike a foil, it doesn't like kind of bend when it hits you or nothing. It's a solid object. Yeah, I've actually got one shown right here behind me.
Yeah, let's see it.
Yeah, so this is pretty much the base type we use. Just lights up. The hilt is actually made of aluminum, and
That's so cool.
The blade is made of polycarbonate. It's the same exact stuff they use to seal windshields onto commercial vehicles. So it's not like a real fragile item. These things break bone if you're not careful.
Oh wow! So you get armor then, because you said there was competitions that you do with lightsaber dueling as well. Like, what type of armor is it similar to fencing?
A lot of people use like a mixture of lacrosse armor and hockey padding type stuff. That's usually like the best way to go about it. But I mean, it's up to the person's preference.
Yeah. So, I mean, you talked about how people are trying to get this to become a sport. Kind of 2 questions here. 1, what would that process look like to make that happen? And 2, like, what are these competitions like? Like, how do they, I mean, obviously, right, you get the person, you win, but is it based off, like, how many hits you get on them? Is there rounds?
Oh, yeah.
What's kind of that like?
Yeah, usually it goes till, like, 10. First one to 10 points is the winner. So, unlike fencing's usually done forward and backward on, like, a square section. Lightsaber combat's actually done on a circular platform. So side to side, forward, backward. There's no rules against like jumping over your opponent, getting behind them, and everything like that. So it becomes extremely complex and extremely difficult, especially with some of these guys that have the ability to literally jump their opponent. So
What?
yeah,
Like they just jump over them?
yeah. Some people actually will actually do flips over their opponents. It's one of their styles.
Wow. That is crazy. And so I'm assuming they're trained in like martial arts and stuff too, if they're
Oh yeah, there's
doing stuff like that.
There's 7 official forms for lightsaber combat. Each one of them has its own abilities. Each one's got its own how it works, its strengths and weaknesses.
What are the 4 combat?
Oh, all the 7. I can break them down pretty easy. The first form is called Shicho. Shicho is a traditionalist form. It utilizes a strong defensive and parrying ability to offset the opponent and disarm them. Second form is Makashi. It's the closest one to fencing. It's known as the duelist form. It all works on quick blade work and quick footwork as well. Form 3 is Soretsu. Soretsu is a purely defense form. It's also Obi-Wan's main form. Utilizes a quick ability to create barriers with your blade. Anyone who masters this can't be touched. Form 4 is Ataru. Ataru is all about agility, acrobatics, just erratic abilities and stuff like that. That's the guys who are doing the flips and tricks. I mean, these guys will do like cartwheels and stuff and rolls and stuff. They're pretty insane to watch. Form 5 is Shien Demsao. It is a purely aggressor form. You usually see it with Darth Vader. It's just using some strong attacks to knock your opponent off guard. Form 6 is Neiman. Neiman is all about balance, precision, and just patience. It's used by a lot more older people. And then the 7th form is Juyo Vapad, and it's all an emotional type of thing. Whatever that person's feeling emotionally is usually what gets put into it. So usually you see like rage and combos out of that form.
Gotcha.
Anyone can learn all 7 of them. We do teach all 7 of them. So, yeah.
That's cool. So what form would you say you're more of a master at then?
My master is actually in Ataru, the 4th form.
And can you remind me what that one is again?
That's the acrobatic and agility one.
Man, that's awesome.
I actually use butterfly kicks to close gaps, and I'll do a back handspring to get distanced from my opponents.
Yeah. What?
Oh yeah,
that's insane, man. And there's videos of you doing this, right?
There's a couple videos out there. I don't know if I have very much of my Ataru forms on video right now.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So I guess let's get back into like how you started living the Jedi lifestyle. Like what kind of prompted you to do that?
Well, the philosophies of it, there's 2 real main points that they teach within the philosophy and lifestyle. The first one is acknowledge that that bad things happen in this world, but don't let it poison who you are. And then the other one is be the change you want to see in the world. And
gotcha.
There's so much cool things about the Jedi and everything. The one that really pulled me in the most is Jedi are constantly learning. They're always wanting to know what's going on. They want to know how the world works. They want to know how people work. And this ever-changing seeking for knowledge just makes us a lot different from most people. It's living this lifestyle's actually got me into the medical field. So, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm in medical school right now.
That is crazy. So just kind of that philosophy got you in like you're like, you know what? I'm gonna challenge myself. I'm gonna seek more knowledge. Like for your example, the medical field.
Yeah.
Is that wow? That's not easy. How's med school then? That's probably
Oh, it's
beating the
definitely
crap.
not easy.
It's a beast.
Yeah, it's definitely
So
not
how do you
easy.
apply then some of the philosophy to actually go through those hard things then?
Well, a lot of it's also with being a Jedi is bettering yourself to better people around you. So it's just an ever seeking. If I do something that inspires someone else because I've worked hard for where I'm at, kind of a thing, and someone acknowledges it and in turn wants to better themselves as well, it just becomes a ripple effect throughout the world. And it could be as small as, picking up trash off the side of a highway, that someone's going to acknowledge it and be inspired to do something themselves.
I agree. I think oftentimes we don't know the actions, like what we do, what it's going to do for us, like for others in the long term.
Yeah.
We sometimes need to take the step back. And I mean, as much as some people hate like analyzing their decisions, realize like, hey, my decisions have positive and negative consequences and other people are watching. And sometimes they look up to you. Sometimes like, hey, what the heck's that guy doing?
Yeah.
And you need to hold yourself accountable to that. But I think it's cool that you like clean up trash and you go and do all that just because that's what Jedi do. And it's similar to the movies and where like have you seen Clone Wars?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But like it reminds me of the one episode where like Obi-Wan was being very, very kind to the Twi'leks.
Mm-hmm.
I probably said that wrong. And then that just bam had a ripple effect. And it's so true. Like there's a lot of lessons in that. Do you think like George Lucas did that on purpose, or like Dave Filoni, some of those producers?
Yeah, I know. I know George Lucas really was into it because when he first started it and everything, he did want it to be outward of, there's no one's inherently evil. And that was what he did with Darth Vader himself. If you really delve into the movies, you can see that, Anakin was just a hurt person. He wasn't inherently evil. It was just the world beat him down more than he could stand up, kind of a thing. And they really did a good job, especially like afterward with the prequels and everything, showing like how he's just a scared child that's been beaten down into an evil spot. Well, within the philosophies that we go through, the acknowledge bad things happen, but don't let it poison you. It's really just a saying of like, there's always something that's going to be out there that's bad, but it doesn't have to inherently be bad.
What do you mean by that last part? So like that doesn't have to be bad? Because I think there's bad things out there, right?
Yeah.
Like, that we look at and are bad. What do you kind of mean by that?
So, trying to think of a decent current event that I can use as an example. I always go with the hurricanes. We had Hurricane Irwin, and I mean, the bads in it, it tore through all those cities and took people's homes and stuff like that. It caused some great devastation, but as a Jedi, I can't just sit there and say, oh, these bad things happened and, it's pointless to do anything. Instead, we look inward and we say, well, what's good? What good has come from this? Well, it's pulled the community together. You ever seen how strong Louisiana and New Orleans is? You can tear those guys down and they'll stand up and get back better than they were beforehand. They're pretty insane with how strong they are. And they're strong like that because they have such a great community that's ready and able to stand up for what happens. So it's always like, sure, it's a bad thing that happened, but those guys are going to be stronger than they were last year because of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I I think you bring in an excellent point where it kind of reminded me of. So there's this book that I'm trying to remember the author off the top of my head, but she wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, but different book, and it's teaching you like essentially what it is teaching you how to be a devil, right? Like how to be this evil person and stuff.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is they talked about war. And the devil that was training the younger one was like, no, we actually don't like that. And they're like, what? Why? And he's like, yeah, people die and a lot of bad things happen, but it actually brings a lot of people together. It's like, you know what? We see this bad thing. Let's fight against it type of thing. And it brings a lot of that community together, kind of like what you were talking about. When bad things happen, usually it brings people together.
Yeah.
So this is something I just going to kind of throw out there, but COVID-19, that didn't seem to really do that. Any like advice of what we should have maybe done, like to kind of bring that people together, or also just like, I don't know. I think that instead of we're natural and like bad things happens, it brings us together. This kind of tore us apart. What's kind of your thoughts there?
Well, there's of course there are the good and the bads with it. The good thing was, at least within the health field, we really buckled down and learned so much more about pathogens and all these different viruses and biotics and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like, sure, people tore each other apart over this virus, and it was kind of odd to see it that way. But I think the reason it tore people apart more than it brought them together was because a lot of people put the politics into it. And let's be honest, you get into politics, it's a lose-lose. How I see it is, I've always told people there's always three sides to every story. There's the right, the left, and the truth. So
I like that.
There's always going to be more than one side to a story, but in the end, no one's technically right. There's one right thing that happened, and that's it, kind of a thing.
Exactly. And I like that you just seem like a guy you focus on the good things, right? Like, I love how the first thing you told me was that there's a lot of advancements made in the medical field. And I'm like, that alone is something good that can happen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get talked about, right? And oftentimes, right, the bad tends to get front and center because it's like, oh, we got to fix this problem. So this is kind of a question I want to hear your answer to, and that's, when bad things happen, how do we still go ahead and like try and solve them, but like kind of take that approach of like, hey, other people might try and solve it a different way?
Oh, how to deal with I'm guessing you're meaning like how to deal with
how to solve problems, like, yeah, and resolve differences.
Well, one of the things I always say is, not everyone is cut out to do everything. So we'll just go back with the hurricane thing. Sure, there's like people like me and you probably, I don't know, you would probably have a really great ability to reach out to people and say like, hey, we need a call to action type stuff. And, my approach to it would be more like, I can post things up and we can pray over them, or we can donate to these bigger places that's able to help. And then there's probably people just on the next state down that's rushing in and fixing electricity and gutting houses and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say like people fight and, are so different that it causes problems. It's more of focus on what you can do to help rather than what everyone else is doing, because that just actually does kind of create more of a negative impact on you, especially when it's like, sure, you don't know how to build a building or gut a house, or you don't have the ability to do this or that. Just focus on, hey, I am able to help. it might be a little different from everybody else, but you're still helping in one way or the next, and that goes a long way.
I think you're right on. I think everyone was born with certain strengths and gifts, right? That they're just naturally better at than other people. And why shouldn't we use them to help benefit society, right? Like,
Yeah.
we should use people's skills to help everyone as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's, oh man, hey, you have something that no one else does. You're in charge of this type of thing. And I think if we kind of came together with that kind of attitude, I think we could get a lot done.
Mm-hmm.
So also on the kind of the styles of dueling and stuff, the thing that's coming to my mind right now is the phrase Yoda uses. It's like, fear leads to anger, anger, hate, right? Everyone's heard that one, hate to suffering.
Yeah.
I want to hear kind of that side of the philosophy, what your perspective is.
So that philosophy is, we use the negative, like we talk about the negative a lot and everything. And so fear, there's so many different types of fear out there. You know, you got the fear of the unknown. You have your basic phobias and stuff like that. Well, one of the things is you're allowing that negative energy to penetrate your body and mind and soul. And what happens is well, you have so much of this fear of what could be and not enough of the positive of what could be. And that's the start of the poisoning of your energies. And then that leads to anger. I mean, you ever go and watch the news and you just see, oh, these people are killing each other and we need to fight back and stuff. And, well, now your fears of what could be is elevated because of what you see. And now you're angry at anything and everyone. And you're going to, in turn, create negatives with your own anger. And then anger leads to suffering because, sure, you might feel like you're getting ahead in life and you're able to top off these other people with your own hate and anger, but sooner or later you're going to lose everything, and then it's suffering is what happens. And that's what that phrase means. And that's what happens with Vader. He was afraid of leaving his mother behind, and then that became anger because of everything he saw in the wars, and then ultimately he loses everything and he suffers because of it.
Exactly. No, I think you hit it right on the head. I think also when that seed of resentment is planted, that like it starts out small, kind of like you said, that fear of like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if. Right, it's almost the fear of that unknown. Like, I don't really know how this is going to turn out if we let this progress. Right, like your example, let's say with the news, right? These people are out here killing these guys. Right, it strikes that fear, like, oh my gosh, like something could happen, and we don't know what that outcome's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
However, right, we let that go on, and we're like, all right, we gotta hit them back, right? We gotta put them in their place, type of thing, and that's when, right, anger, all these other, and then. To your point at the end, it's a lose-lose situation, right? No one really comes out winning that, right? The person that's causing all this damage is definitely suffering, and then the people that receive it also.
Yeah.
Same thing for them. And on that note, I'm gonna drop the intelligent question of the day. I think there's a fine line of when should you defend yourself and when should you try and keep like that anger in check, because I think sometimes, right, you can't just be helpless, right? You have to be strong to be able to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between like defending yourself and then just retaliating? And B, how can we be more like that?
Oh, that's a good one. So when to defend and when to fight kind of a thing. Well, to defend, I've always been like, I'll defend these philosophies and these lifestyle choices because I believe it's correct, Like, I can stand by this and say, I think I'm making the right choices, kind of a thing. And it's easy to defend your opinions and your ideals what you believe, it's completely fine to do that. When you should fight is the hard part, especially because the Jedi don't really believe in fighting, but we do in an oddball way. Kind of like how I say you don't fight hate with hate. Well, you don't fight fire with fire, you put it out with water. So one of the harder ways of fighting as a Jedi is you have to understand their perspective, and that's when you can decide to fight. But I wouldn't suggest fighting exactly the same. You know, people out there always are fighting with words and guns, and it's just become hate on hate. You got one side riots and destroys a city, then the other side riots and destroys the city. So I've always said, fight fire with water. If you feel like something's wrong in the community, try and figure out what's going on. Because there's a common core problem that both sides are actually fighting for. They just don't open their minds enough to figure out what's going on. Everyone's always fighting for something, and it's usually pretty similar.
I 100% agree. That right there is the intelligent answer of the day. That is phenomenal. I think also, to your point, a lot of people have the same principles, the same values. Like, hey, this is what I believe in. This is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, I think the biggest thing is how do we actually solve the problem at hand, right? Because everyone has different solutions, and then it's like, well, my solution's better, and then that's when you start butting heads. The fact of the matter is everyone still cares about this issue, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is how do we deal with it? That's where we start conflicting, I think.
And there's a lot of those type of things, like you got the pro-life versus the pro-choice people, and it's not like there is no right or wrong answers on it. And that's why so many people are fighting about the issue, is it's because, like to some points, there's one point on one side that's right and one point on the other side that's right. But there's not a definite answer of this one's right or this one's right. Both sides have good points and both sides have bad points, There's no right or wrong answer. But that's when I have to say that it's not about fighting anymore. It's about defending what you believe in. And I'm sure that the other side can at least agree with some of your standpoints as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, again, you have to come in with that openness as well. That's like, I think, the core thing.
It's a hard thing to do in today, so.
Yeah. No, it is hard. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So, Austin, thank you for coming on. If people want to reach out to you, get training from you, attend your academy, what's the best way they can find it, attend it, all that, and also reach out to you and get a hold of you?
So, Portside Rogues is the best way to find us. You can find us through Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're on most different types of social media platforms. Just whichever one you use, type in Portside Rogues and you'll likely find us. And it's not too hard. Each and every one of them is connected to the other one. So once you find it, it's cool. Pretty easy.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today. I learned a lot from you, and I'm sure people listening also walked away with a lot of great points. So thank you for coming on today.
Of course.
All right, everyone. As you can tell, that is Austin Wells. He's a very intelligent person, has great things to share. I challenge you guys, if you liked anything you heard today or are interested in learning more from Austin, to reach out to him. I'm sure he would love to hear from you guys. Stay tuned till next week. We have a great guest lined up for you guys. See you guys next week, and let's get after it. Hey everyone, if you liked this episode and would like to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button. We release a new episode every Wednesday for you guys to listen to. Thank you guys so much for the support that you give. We could not have done this without you guys. If you would like to be a potential guest on the show, check out intelligentconvos.com and fill out the form there. Thank you guys again, and let's get after it.